The internet doesn't just react anymore, it builds narratives in real time. And right now, the situation involving Claressa Shields, Papoose, and Remy Ma has turned into one of those moments where perception is moving faster than facts. For months, the storyline felt simple. People online painted a clear picture. A messy situation, a love triangle, and a familiar script where one person was framed as the villain and another as the victim. But narratives like that rarely survive scrutiny. And now, after recent interviews and resurfaced clips, that clean storyline is starting to crack. The shift didn't happen because of one piece of evidence. It happened because of tone, behavior, and how people interpreted what they saw. When Claressa Shields sat down to speak, many expected damage control. Instead, what they saw, rightly or wrongly, felt calculated to some viewers. Not emotional, not reactive, but controlled. And in internet culture, perception is everything. That's where things start to get complicated. Because what some people see as composure, others read as strategy. What some interpret as confidence, others call detachment. And once the audience starts questioning your intent, every word you say gets dissected under a microscope. Social media doesn't just listen, it analyzes. Every pause, every shift in tone, every moment where a name isn't mentioned becomes part of the narrative. Viewers began pointing out that during discussions, Remy Ma was rarely addressed directly. To some, that felt intentional. To others, it meant nothing. But again, perception doesn't need proof, it just needs momentum. At the same time, conversations started emerging about timelines. When did things begin? How long had certain relationships been developing? Were they private, or were they hidden? There's a difference, and the internet is obsessed with defining it. Privacy suggests mutual respect. Secrecy suggests something else entirely. And once people decide it's the second one, the tone of the conversation changes fast. Now layer in another factor: power dynamics. When people talk about relationships in the public eye, they don't just look at emotions, they look at influence. They look at age gaps, career positioning, and who benefits from the connection. That's why discussions around management, business involvement, and financial ties have started popping up. Are those claims verified? Not fully. Are they being discussed heavily? Absolutely. And in today's media environment, repeated speculation starts to feel like fact, even when it isn't. That's a dangerous line, but it's one the internet crosses all the time. What's interesting here is how quickly the focus shifted from what happened to who had control. Some people are now framing the situation as a strategic move rather than an emotional one. Again, interpretation, not confirmation, but it's gaining traction. And traction is what turns a moment into a narrative. Meanwhile, Remy Ma has largely maintained a quieter public stance, which, ironically, can be more powerful than speaking out. Silence creates space, and in that space, audiences project their own interpretations. Some see strength, some see restraint, some see someone waiting, and that uncertainty keeps people watching. Because the truth is, audiences aren't just following facts, they're following tension. They're looking at old clips, resurfacing interviews, revisiting past interactions. Moments that once seemed normal are now being reinterpreted through a completely different lens. That's how online narratives evolve. Not through new information, but through new context. A glance becomes a signal. A comment becomes a clue. A coincidence becomes a pattern. And suddenly, everything looks intentional. But here's where you need to stay grounded. Patterns don't equal proof. They can suggest something. They can raise questions. But they don't confirm anything on their own. Still, that hasn't stopped people from connecting dots. There's also a broader conversation happening beneath the surface. One that has less to do with these specific individuals and more to do with loyalty, boundaries, and public image. When people talk about betrayal in situations like this, they're not just reacting to the individuals involved. They're projecting their own values, ideas about friendship, respect, and what people owe each other. Especially when relationships overlap between personal and professional spaces. That's why this story is hitting so hard. It's not just gossip. It's relatable conflict. And relatable conflict spreads fast. At the same time, there's a second layer: reputation. Claressa Shields built her image around discipline, focus, and being a dominant force in her field. That kind of brand is powerful, but it's also fragile, because when your public identity is built on strength and control, any situation that suggests otherwise creates a sharper contrast, and contrast creates headlines. Now, every statement she makes isn't just being heard, it's being evaluated against that image. Does it align? Does it contradict? Does it feel authentic? And if the audience senses a gap, they fill it themselves. That's what's happening right now. The conversation is no longer just about what happened, it's about what people believe happened. And belief in the digital age can be just as influential as truth. Another factor driving this situation is timing. There are rumors of more interviews, more clips, more responses potentially coming. Whether that actually happens or not, the anticipation alone is enough to keep the story alive. People are waiting for the next piece, the next receipt, the next moment that either confirms or contradicts what they think they know. And that waiting creates pressure, because every new appearance becomes a risk. Say too much, and you give people more to analyze. Say too little, and you look like you're avoiding something. There's no perfect move once the narrative turns against you. That's the trap of public controversy. Meanwhile, Papoose is also part of the conversation, though in a more indirect way. His role, his decisions, and his silence, or lack of it, are all being scrutinized as well. In situations like this, no one stays neutral in the public eye. Even if they try to, everyone becomes part of the story, and every action, or inaction, gets interpreted. So where does that leave things? Right now, in a state of uncertainty, there are claims, there are counterclaims, there are interpretations layered on top of both. But there isn't a single, confirmed narrative that ties everything together. And that's the key point most people ignore. Because certainty is boring. Speculation is viral. So people choose speculation. But if you're looking at this critically, you have to separate three things. What is confirmed? What is alleged? What is assumed? Most of what's driving this conversation sits in the third category. That doesn't mean nothing happened. It means we don't fully know what happened. And until that changes, everything else is just interpretation. Still, one thing is clear. This situation has become a case study in how fast public perception can shift. One interview, one moment, one tone that doesn't match expectations. And suddenly, the entire narrative flips. That's the reality of modern media. You're not just judged on your actions. You're judged on how those actions are perceived, framed, and repeated. And once that framing sticks, it's incredibly hard to break. Whether this turns out to be a misunderstanding, a misrepresentation, or something more serious remains to be seen. But right now, the story isn't about closure. It's about momentum. And momentum is still building. So the real question isn't just what happened. It's what people are going to believe happened after the next round of interviews, clips, and responses drops. Because in this kind of situation, the final outcome isn't decided in private. It's decided in public. And the public hasn't made up its mind yet.